The college baseball experience on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 325x your entry with their new pick 8. Sign up today with the promo code TCE SGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCE SGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven props and picks. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And it is showtime once again here on the College Baseball Experience. Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Noah Bieniek, a.k.a. 77, and I got my ass kicked on Saturday. The way I would actually put it is it was not predictable based – I think I had the right handicap, especially on the Kansas State-Virginia game, and that's what ended up sinking me along with Georgia. Like, we had two plays. I had two plays on both Kansas State and Georgia. We had Georgia money line and Georgia in the money line parlay, and they didn't show up. And then we had Kansas State, and they did exactly what I said they definitely should not do, and they pulled Tyson Neighbors. That game really pissed me off because Kansas State didn't play to win that game. They played to try to win the series. And in my opinion, you need to win the game today in order to play tomorrow. They didn't play with that mentality, in my opinion. Let's go through all the games because the way that we did it yesterday, unfortunately, I wouldn't get to every game to recap. So we're going to recap them all here real quick at the beginning of the show. And I'll jump into some tangents for each game. For the first game of the day, technically the first two games of the day were absolutely fire. They both finished 10-8 final. Let's go with the Evansville one first. This one was what started off the day to be very, very good, and I was riding high until the second slate, and that sucked. But Evansville wins the game outright. I wrote it up in the article, called the shot. Like, if they had a chance to win the game, it was not game one with their ace. It was game two when they were facing Drew Beam. That's what happened here today. I mean, they fell down early. It was not, the handicap was not because Evansville's second starter was going to be able to hold Tennessee down. I mean, Tennessee hit 3 bombs in the first inning. It looked rough early. But Evansville was able to get the beam in like the 4th or the 5th inning, I think it was, and they put up 5 runs on Beam. And then the Tennessee bullpen wasn't able to hold the lead, which was quite impressive once again by this Evansville offense. Again, like during this time of the year, it does not take talent to win ball games. It takes momentum. And, whichever team is hot in the game of baseball typically wins in the postseason. You see it in the MLB every single year. The Dodgers spend the most money, but they're never the ones that are always clicking at the right time when it comes to the postseason. It just rarely ever happens that way. And it's why the number 1 overall seed has not won this NCAA tournament since 1999. We'll talk about game 3 between Tennessee and Evansville, the do or die game between the two teams, as that will take place here on Sunday. The next game on the slate was another really fun game. This one was going extra innings. I think it went 11 here. Florida State ends up holding off UConn here. The Seminoles win 10-8 over the Huskies. James Tibbs hits 3 bombs. Absolutely comes alive. He was kind of silent throughout the regional. First game really didn't do too much, and then just absolutely blew this game open. He was the reason why the Seminoles won this game. They're going back to Omaha. Truly a great story there for the Seminoles and Link Jarrett. You know, them missing the ACC tournament last season and now going to Omaha. It's really, really incredible the turnaround that has happened there. And now we're going to get to the train wreck. That was Georgia on the money line against NC State. Watching this game unfold in the second inning was very frustrating because NC State didn't hit the ball too hard in that 10-run second inning. There was like 2 infield hits, 3 bunts. Georgia just couldn't get an out. It was not because of really fielding errors or anything like that. It was just whatever NC State was doing. They're bunting the ball in the correct place. That's just by happenstake. Some call it luck, some call it skill. That's what it is. And then you look at most of the hits that they were just falling in front of the outfielders, and you just couldn't do anything about it. Not a single walk from Colton Smith. He wasn't getting hit hard, but NC State puts up 10 runs in the second inning. And we'll talk about the progress of that game when it comes to the Georgia bullpen in a little bit here, because it's the first game that we'll talk about here for Sunday's slate. Absolute train wreck that game was. The next game on the slate was Florida beating Clemson 10-7. Clemson had a 4-2 lead going into the middle innings. Liam Peterson had trouble controlling his pitches today. Struggled throwing strikes, threw a couple of wild pitches that scored a couple of runs for Clemson. That was how they scored, I think, 2 runs today of their 7. Jac Caglianone comes up big, comes up clutch in the middle innings for Florida to give them the lead. Ultimately, they didn't look back. Luke Heyman added on with a home run in the 9th. Brandon Neely was excellent out of the pen for Florida, but again, we'll talk about it with the handicap on Sunday when we do our bullpen checks for every game. I think he's burned for tomorrow. He's not going to come back after throwing 60 pitches. He'll come back probably for game 3, but I would not count on it in game 2. Texas A&M beats Oregon 10-6. Scary moment in this game where Braden Montgomery just, tripped over his own feet, ankle turned really nasty, broke his own ankle running to home. I have not seen anything like that, especially from somebody as coordinated and as athletic as Braden Montgomery is. Supposed to be one of the top 10 prospects in this year's MLB draft. And that was just gruesome. They immediately put an air cast on it right at home plate. And he needed assistance to get off the field. Just a gruesome scene there. And it took the wind out of Texas A&M sails for sure, because they were losing 6-2 early in that game. And they scored in that inning with after Montgomery got out at home. They did score again, I do believe. So it was 6-3. And then they went on after that inning and scored 7 scoreless after Montgomery was hurt. In the post-game presser, Jim Schlossnagle unfortunately did say that he would be out for the year. Like, he's not coming back. The broken ankle is actually like best case scenario for Montgomery and his future of coming back. Like, he's only going to be off his feet for about 2 weeks. And then, he'll need some time to fully heal, and then he'll be able to get back in like a month or 2. So probably the best news that you were going to hear after some of the pictures and the video that we saw. The other headache from today was Kansas State and Virginia. And like I said, so Wentworth goes well. Like, we didn't expect him to absolutely deal, but he was one of their best options remaining. And then they turned the ball over to Tyson Neighbors when they were losing. I think it was 4-3 at the time, and it was in the 5th inning. And he gives up 2 runs. I mean, it wasn't a typical elite start from Tyson Neighbors, but he kept them in the game. This game was 7-6 going into the 9th inning, and they pulled Neighbors after only 36 pitches, and Kansas State's bullpen gave it up after that. They gave up 3 runs in the 9th inning, and it just absolutely killed a very, very logical handicap. Like, there was no reason to pull Neighbors with 36 pitches down by 1 run. You needed to win that game. If you don't win that game, you're not playing the next day. It just didn't make sense, especially after they were able to throw Neighbors for 60 plus pitches against Arkansas the week before. It just didn't make any sense to me. So Virginia moves on. They're going to Omaha. You know, that North Carolina Virginia game on probably what's going to be day one is going to be very, very offensive. Should be a lot of fun. That entire bracket. I mean, the way it is right now, Florida State, Virginia, North Carolina, 3 ACC teams all can put up bunches of runs in a single inning. It's going to be a lot of fun on that side of the bracket in Omaha for sure. The next game was Kentucky completely undressing Oregon State. Oregon State just couldn't play defense today. Multiple mental mistakes and some physical mistakes too on the defensive side of the ball, whether it was walks, whether it was missed throws, like they literally couldn't play catch. The catcher threw a ball away. I think he threw 2 balls away. The third baseman threw a ball away. They had Kentucky was only leading like 2 or 3-0 going into the 7th inning, and they put up 7 runs in that 7th inning, and it was just a complete train wreck for the Beavers. And we had Oregon State on the money line, but we do have Kentucky for the series, and we do have like the logical way to play that out coming up here in a little bit later on. And then North Carolina and West Virginia finished it out tonight, and the Tar Heels once again hold on. I mean, we had bases loaded. It was an infield chopper to the first baseman, and it was a race to the bag to win it. And North Carolina was able to hold off West Virginia from tying the game on that very play. I mean, one of the 2 runs that North Carolina scored today was from a Vance Honeycutt first pitch home run of the game. So he literally homered on back-to-back pitches from the walk-off last night. And the North Carolina, I mean, the game here tonight, he hit the first pitch out. So back-to-back pitches in the Super Regional, back-to-back home runs for the same dude. I don't know if that's ever been done before, but it's the odds and the percentages are very low of that happening. I've yet to watch the Maisie press conference. I haven't gotten to I like to watch a lot of the pressers, but I have not gotten to that one kind of on purpose. I'm going to end my night with that. I'll be able to grab some clips, put that out in the morning. Those West Virginia clips that I put out yesterday did very well. Social media, again, was buzzing today. Just with the amount of attention that all these games are getting when they're on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, everybody is tuned into college baseball, and it's amazing to see. So I've been doing really good with the social media game, and I appreciate a lot of people that have been engaging with it. So, that's going to wrap up our recap. I mean, yesterday I went 1-5 on my bets. We lost because, again, I had the Kansas State run line and I sprinkled the money line. I had the Georgia money line and Georgia in the money line parlay. And then I had Oregon State. Those were the 5 losses along with the Evansville run line. It was just an absolute train wreck of a day. We still got the futures in place. Like the Georgia play was them just to win the series. We have the, North Carolina won it in 2 games. So that one finished under 2.5 games for the Chapel Hill Regional. So that one came through. And unfortunately, the Charlottesville Regional over 2.5 didn't come through. I have the Texas A&M under 2.5 in their regional. So that one's still got a shot here today. But before we jump into today's games, the Hockey Gambling Podcast guys are running the Stanley Cup contest. I don't think this is available anymore, honestly, because the Stanley Cup finals began Saturday night. So I'll just skip this and we'll go right into Underdog Fantasy. So their pick 8 is live currently for NBA Finals, for Stanley Cup Finals, for the college baseball, the World Series, both the NCAA Tournament and the World Series, I assume, because they had them up for the first 2 days here. You can make entries now up to 8 picks, and Underdog's automatically going to double flex the entries. So you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry. With more picks to make and extra ways to win, the excitement is higher than ever. And the best part is you can win up to 325x your original amount. You can now use the specials and boosts on all flexed entries. So don't miss a chance to play the pick 8 version before it's gone. So sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. The game 2 special pick for the NBA Finals is Kyrie Irving, higher than a half point. So I highly encourage you to go over there and get down on that. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. I appreciate everybody, all in the YouTube chat currently. We've got more than 40 of you guys here in the YouTube chat, more than 100 tuned in at 2 a.m. across all social media platforms that we're streaming this to. There are a lot of comments in here, so unfortunately I'm not going to be able to kind of get to them. But if you start dropping some comments from here on out, I'll be reading them as we go game by game here for Sunday's action. The first game is the dreaded Georgia NC State series that I have a lot of money on Georgia winning this series. And like I said, for the super regional, like it almost seemed like the handicap was too easy. Everything on paper was pointing me to Georgia. And then when I went to, do a little bit of extra research in the NC State, like how is this team here? I've called them an enigma for the entire second half of the season. Just haven't really been able to figure them out when I'm picking their games. I picked them to win the regional though. And the thing that I discovered over the past week is that, Elliott Avens' squad kind of fits into the 11.7 hot, cold, hot theory. And if you don't know what it is, it's basically like teams that typically make deep runs in the postseason have faced a good bit of adversity in the middle of the season, where they'll start the season well because they were expected. They had some good expectations coming into the year for how they were going to play. NC State, I believe, was a top 20 team in the preseason this season. They started 11-2. Then they hit a cold spell in mid-March until late April when they went 10-14. And now the Wolfpack are on a 15-4 hot streak in their last 19 games. That's my only explanation for what is going on, because once again, I really like Georgia in this game. I just do. And somebody on Twitter said that you sound like Colby in the NCAA tournament, like for college basketball. I didn't realize that until now, but I'm just going off of how I've always picked games the last 2 seasons, all of this year into this tournament, which I've sucked in the NCAA tournament, but I did well in conference tournaments, doing the exact same thing. Dom Fritton, the projected starter here for NC State today, he's a sophomore left-handed pitcher. He's 3-5 on the year, a 6.57 ERA, with 67 strikeouts and 68 innings, with 43 walks. On the road this season, it's an 8.28 road ERA, and in his last 4 starts, he's been in rough shape, 6.43 ERA. Everything points to me that Fritton is not pitching well lately, and Georgia has an elite offense. Anybody with a brain looking at everything that I just read off would say that Georgia's going to score runs, and Georgia put up 1 yesterday against a very similar situation with Sam Heifel. Starting for Georgia is Leighton Finley, a sophomore right-handed pitcher who's 5-1. On the season, he has a 4.41 ERA, 71 strikeouts, 26 walks and 69.1 innings. In his last 4 starts, it's a 1.09 ERA. Again, like polar opposites in current success and success over the season. The only thing that makes me not bet Georgia here is in the first game when they did get blown out 16 or 18-1, whatever the fuck it was. Wes Johnson, their manager, he pulls Colton Smith, the starting pitcher, after 38 pitches. But then he pitches 2 of his most reliable relievers in this game. It was over. Just punt it. It's 10 to nothing in the second inning. He threw Chandler Marsh for 86 pitches and then Jarvis Evans for 58. Those were 2 of his most reliable relievers all season long. And they're now logically, if you care about the player's arms, they are probably not coming back to throw on the next day. So you really only have Leighton Finley, the starting pitcher, and Brian Zeldin, who has a 5.68 ERA, and Christian Maracna, who has a 5.31 ERA. But just burning 2 of your best options in the pen was just really annoying to me. Like, dude, it's over. Punt it. Like, you saw with Eric Bakich today, trailing. He's only trailing by 3, but he throws Jacob McGovern, who's got like 11 innings on the year. He's a freshman. And you know what? McGovern looked okay. Like, he had 3 walks, but he was able to shine a little bit while Florida put up only 1 run on him. I think it was it was the home run in the 9th inning against McGovern. But like, that's what you do in the NCAA tournament. Do not burn anybody that is reliable that you need to win a series. And he just doesn't have his full bullpen ready to go here. Whereas NC State, they only threw Sam Heifel. So they threw Sam Heifel 111 pitches, and they only threw Andrew Schaffner after him for 20 pitches. They have their full bullpen to work with, even though it's not a good bullpen. 7.20 weekend bullpen ERA. Or, sorry, 5.76 weekend bullpen ERA. Georgia's is a 7.20. That's what pisses me off about Johnson's decisions of throwing Marsh and Evans in a game that was clearly over, is because they don't have the bullpen depth. The reason why that I liked Georgia in this series is because all of their starting pitchers have been pitching well lately, and their lineup was explosive against a weak starting staff of NC State. And because they built the very big cushion lead at the beginning of that game for Heifel, he really didn't have to pitch with any, traffic, any stress the entire game. He had a 10-run lead, and he pitched great. So I would love Georgia in this game, but I can't bet it because even if Leighton Finley goes okay for 6 or 7 innings, I can't trust what they bring in after him. They don't have enough after Finley to be able to feel comfortable about winning this game. As for NC State, I can't get behind Fritton. I can't get behind the bullpen to begin with. And also for NC State, they are much better against right-handed pitching than they are left-handed. Leighton Finley, left-handed pitcher, their OPS against left-handed pitching is 758. Against right-handed pitching, it's 941. So they didn't hit the ball hard yesterday. They still, OPS is a lot more weighted to extra base hits. They killed Georgia with a lot of singles and a lot of bunts. So I can't bet Georgia tomorrow, and I'm not going to be on NC State. That's my takeaway for this game too in that series. Let's go to a more fun game in Clemson. This regional, the first game was fun. High scoring as well as a lot of the games were on Saturday. For what it's worth, I like the over 15.5 for Georgia NC State, by the way. Clemson minus 150, Florida plus 120. Total set at 12.5, minus 115 both ways. Clemson minus 1.5 is minus 110. Florida plus 1.5 is minus 120. For the bullpen check-in, bullpen review, whatever. Clemson threw Tristan Smith for 81 pitches. Lucas Malstedt came in relief for 11. Reed Garris threw 15. And then when they established that, hey, we're not going to throw anybody that we rely on until we get into a tie game or a lead, they decided to put in Jacob McGovern, who's been solid this year, but only threw like 13 innings or whatever it was going into this appearance. And he went like 3 innings today, and he looked pretty good. That's what you do when you're trailing in the NCAA tournament. So for Florida, actually, the remaining options for Clemson, you have Austin Gordon, who has a 4.46 ERA. He's the acting closer. I mean, really, they don't really have a closer. They just have multiple guys in the bullpen that they can go to. Billy Barlow, 4.34 ERA. Matthew Marshall, 4.71 ERA. Those are the 3 guys that you'll probably see out of the pen for Clemson. And maybe if Bakich wants to go to the freshman that's actually been pitching pretty well this season, Drew Titsworth hasn't been bad. He's got like a 3.30 ERA. He just doesn't have the same amount of innings as the other 3 that I just listed off do. For Florida yesterday, Liam Peterson threw 53 pitches. Jameson Fisher threw 60. Brandon Neely threw 60. I wouldn't count on seeing any of those 3 here in game 2. They could come back in game 3, I would think. Their bullpen, though, they don't have anybody really reliable after that. A lot of the guys that are back there, like a Cade Fisher, like a Luke McNeely, a lot of the guys that have bulk innings for this Gators team out of the pen all have ERAs in the 6s and 7s that aren't named Jameson Fisher and Brandon Neely. So the bullpen's a little bit shaky compared to the Clemson 5.21 weekend bullpen ERA when they've got the 3 guys under 5, like I mentioned. Let's get to the starting pitching here. The one that we do know is confirmed is Florida. They'll have the hammer in this game. They'll be the home team. Jac Caglianone is going to start. He's a junior left-handed pitcher, 5-2, 4.57 ERA on the year, 76 strikeouts, 46 walks in 67 innings with a 4.13 Sierra. He's got a 5.26 ERA on the road. In his last 6 starts, it's a 5.97 ERA. Hasn't been the greatest stretch of games here for Cags on the bump. Starting for Clemson, I think it's going to be Aiden Knock. I mean, he started game 2 in the regional last weekend. Bakich started the game 1 starter from last weekend, Tristan Smith, here in game 1 of the super regional. I assume he's going to go back to Aiden Knock. Freshman right-handed pitcher, 5-1, 2.96 ERA, 103 strikeouts, 26 walks in 79 innings with a 2.49 Sierra, a 4.50 ERA in his last 3 starts. Isn't great, but you know, overall he's been Clemson's best starting pitcher this season. And they've got the better bullpen options. They have the offense that has performed better throughout the year, and they hit better for average. Florida packs more of a punch power-wise, but Clemson's park doesn't really play to the power. It's a little bit of a bigger park. Clemson's got 8 guys that are hitting above 300 in the lineup. Florida's got 2. I like Clemson in game 2. That's going to be a bet for me here. I didn't bet a side in the series because I liked Florida in game 1, but not enough to bet them because it was a untrusty bullpen freshman on the mound. Give me the freshman who's been the best starting pitcher for Clemson with a trusty bullpen in Clemson's. I like Clemson minus 150 here in this game against Florida. And just because I didn't read off the offensive stats, if you're curious, Clemson 913 team OPS, 116 WRC plus. Florida with an 839 team OPS, 110 WRC plus. Okay, going into the YouTube chat here. I went on for about 10 minutes or so. But does Maracna have pine tar in his hair? That is the question. Good question. I don't know his splits after he got caught, but good question. I didn't name him originally, but he is another option. The one option that I would definitely count on for Georgia to appear here in this game is Brian Zeldin in relief. Noah Thornton says, do you not think it could just be, frankly, a poor pitching staff that gets overlooked by the offense? I've established that they have a poor pitching staff. Ryan Hasty, at least FSU punched their ticket. Yeah. Ghost Dad says, everybody please hit that like and subscribe button for this man. I appreciate that, Ghost Dad. Daniel Coddy says, Finley's decent. Brandon says, bro, when you got that many players batting, the averages they are, no matter who's pitching, they should score runs. I agree if we're talking about Georgia. Brandon says that's the worst part. They didn't punt, but still got embarrassed. Yes. He also says, I think tomorrow's game is the same way. I think you just flush it. If you're an offense like that, I mean, they've done it all season long. They've been able to come back after losses and put up good offensive performances. So I think they'll be able to flush it. I can't put money on that happens, though, unfortunately. Daniel Cotty says, look at UConn. Bro, this shit ends tomorrow. NC State are just some dogs, ironically. Brandon says NC State at plus 110. I'm taking a swing. I think they're playing with house money. All the pressure on Georgia. Georgia has huge holes, says Daniel. Hasty, Arnold got touched up today, but Florida State is destiny. They are. They've got the Mike Martin story. So, yeah, they've got the tragic magic on their side for the long haul. Daniel Cotty says they really struggled against Duke in the ACC tournament, lefty, to be frank. We talking about Florida State or NC State? Because if Duke doesn't really throw a ton of guys for long distance in games. Mailman Mike 3 says overs in early games have been straight cash. It has been facts. Cotty says, nah, 15 over 15.5 is reactionary. Georgia isn't that good on offense, dude. You're high. Have you watched this team all season long? Daniel, what do you mean look at their schedule? They play in the SEC. I mean, we've got a possibility of 5 SEC teams playing in Omaha. We have a possibility of 5 ACC teams playing in Omaha too. Like, both of these teams are legit. They're here for a reason. Brandon says, after today, I'm not putting as much weight in the starting pitchers. I mean, Kentucky's Trey Poozer threw well. I mean, I don't think that's the correct way to go about it either, though. Bullpens are important, very important, but starting pitchers go the deepest in the game for a reason. A lot of nonsense back and forth between Daniel and Brandon. Daniel says, be honest, West Coast baseball sucks. Well, Oregon State did not make it look very good today. Hasty says, I see a total of 14.5 for Georgia, NC State. I like the over. It was at 15.5. It still is at 15.5 here on DraftKings in front of me. I'm just reading live DraftKings prices. I would highly recommend you guys shop around for these picks. When you do place them. But yeah, I like Clemson to win that game, minus 150. I'm betting that. I do like the over 12.5. I think Clemson's going to be able to score, and Florida's going to help out a little bit to get it over 12.5. And I would take the Clemson minus 1.5 there on the picks page for tomorrow. I don't know if I'm technically, because of the Belmont Stakes ran today, I don't think I have to do this ad read anymore either. So I think we're home free on the show. So let's jump right into the third game here. It is Evansville against Tennessee. Tennessee's minus 600. Evansville's plus 370. The total's set at 15.5, minus 115 both ways. Tennessee minus 5.5 is plus 110. Evansville plus 5.5 is minus 140. This game begins at 6 p.m. Eastern. There's a little bit of a break here after the Clemson-Florida game. Evansville's in trouble for this game, and that was established from the moment this series had started from the moment they used Shane Harris in the first game, from the moment that they used Shane Harris in the second game. I'll immediately start it off by just saying Evansville's starting pitcher for this game is Kevin Reed, freshman left-handed pitcher. It's not Deverman, it's Kevin Reed. 7.38 ERA, 5-2 record, 40 strikeouts, 26 walks, and 57.1 innings, 5.05 Sierra. So Deverman threw 89 pitches on Friday. I do think, like, if they're desperate enough, he could throw in this third game. And Shane Harris threw 44 pitches on Friday. Then on Saturday, Donovan Schultz threw 48. He was the starting pitcher here. Jacob Meyer threw 57. He's one of their more reliable relievers. Max Hansman threw 24. We'll probably see him again on Sunday for quite a bit. Like, he'll probably get some distance on Sunday in Sunday's game. Nick Smith, who's their fourth starter, came in relief when they had the lead. He threw 52 pitches. And then Shane Harris closed the game out for another 24. So he's thrown 68 pitches this weekend. I do think if they're desperate enough, they throw him again. It's not smart, but I do think there's a chance that it happens. I do think there's a chance that we see Deverman again. However, I'm just not recommending it for player safety, player health, and that types of things. It would be the first time all season that Shane Harris would have pitched in a game 3 straight days. So even if he does appear, I don't love it. And if Deverman appears, it would be the first time he's pitched twice in the same week. I don't love that either. The remaining best pen arm that has not thrown this weekend for Evansville is Drew Feiger, who has a 7.65 ERA. I mean, this bullpen is rough. It's got a 6.21 weekend bullpen ERA. It's not good. And Tennessee's going to be able to score runs. I mean, that's been the case the entire time. Evansville had to hold on for dear life at the end of the game, bases loaded, with Shane Harris, their best reliever, on the mound, to be able to get the win against Tennessee. They just don't have the pitching to be able to go 9 innings in a slugfest against the number 1 overall team in the country. I am hoping that some people take the run line in this game. 5.5 is a little too much for me still. I would love a 3.5. I'd probably bet minus 4.5. I just think Tennessee wins by either 5 or 6 in this matchup. But I do think Tennessee is a solid parlay piece in this game. They're going to start Xander Sechrist, the senior left-handed pitcher, who's 3-1, 3.60 ERA on the year, 60 strikeouts, 14 walks, and 60 innings pitched with a 3.07 Sierra. Their bullpen situation's interesting. I mean, it's not perfect. They have burned probably Kirby Cannell and AJ Causey. I wouldn't expect to return. You had Chris Stamos start that Friday game. He threw 27 pitches. Causey came in the duo that they've done the entire season. He threw 82 pitches. Kirby Cannell throws 34. Aaron Combs throws 20. Combs did not pitch on Saturday. I would expect him on Sunday. Drew Beam throws 82. He's not going to come back on Sunday. Then Kirby Connell threw 9. But, I mean, that's just getting hot 2 days in a row. I doubt they go with the same reliever 3 days in a row. That's just me. Nate Snead threw 28 pitches. There's a chance he goes again on Sunday. A good chance. And Andrew Banky threw 30. There's a good chance he goes again. Honestly, Snead has some control issues in Saturday's game, so he might not have earned the trust to be able to go out again here on Sunday. So, but the remaining pen arm for Tennessee that they haven't used yet this weekend, that has been their best, one of their best arms, is Dylan Loy. 2.28 ERA and 27.2 innings this season. Like, Tennessee's got the pitching depth to be able to get through this game. Evansville just does not. So I like Tennessee to win this game. I think it goes over, but I don't have a ton of confidence in that. I think Tennessee scores 8, 9, 10 runs. Evansville scores 4 to 5. And it's going to be in that ballpark. I do like, even though I really said, like, if you were to take 10 and 5, like the two examples that I put, it would still be 15. I just think this one finds a way to get over with all the pitching that has already been used throughout this series. But Tennessee on the run line would be a play in the morning, in the afternoon, depending on how much the public likes that Evansville run line in this one. But Tennessee, I think it's a solid parlay piece. I would throw that run line in if that drops as well. The YouTube chat is talking along. Congrats, Evansville. Who needs the 7.5 runs? Says Hasty. Daniel says, God, could you imagine if Evansville won this? I mean, I could. I saw it with Notre Dame 2 years ago. A lot of people didn't count Notre Dame in that matchup. I mean, we were seeing very similar prices with Notre Dame against that stacked Tennessee team. I know it's a 4 seed against the number 1 overall seed in the tournament, and that was the first time ever that a 4 seed had beaten the number 1 overall team in the NCAA tournament since 1999 when this format was created. But I wouldn't be surprised if Evansville's offense was able to keep scoring and stay with Tennessee. But at the end of the day, I don't think their pitching has enough to be able to hold Tennessee back. Brandon says, I think either Tennessee wins by 15 or Evansville wins. I mean, yeah, similar. If Evansville wins this, we need a 30 for 30, says Daniel Cotty. You absolutely got to get him in here. If there's ever a time to be desperate, it's against UT. I assume that's for Deverman. Brandon says East Carolina was as good as Tennessee, depending on who you ask. Yes, but they didn't have the healthy pitching. Like, that was the whole reason why they weren't able to go 7 games with Evansville. Like, Evansville's offense was relentless and East Carolina wasn't healthy. Purple Aces deserve a ton of respect, says Hasty. I think they do too. Like I said, just watching that game on Friday, I was like, they earned my respect. They have a legit shot on Saturday, and they won it. Brandon says, I think they stand a chance. Minus 550 on Tennessee is ridiculous. Minus 250 maybe for Tennessee. I don't think it's going down to minus 250 there. And I see minus 600 on DraftKings for what it's worth currently. So Daniel says, I think minus 550 is as free as it gets. Feels like the difference in run line versus money line is stupid. Dude, Daniel, I what? 100 points per run? That's insane. I mean, that's just kind of what we've seen all season long. Was Florida just bad regular season because they're not built for weekday games? They're a young team. So Florida grew up as the season went along. They were losing a lot of the midweek games. One, because Coach O'Sullivan never takes them seriously enough. So he always kind of mixes in a lot of young pitchers in general. And this is a young pitching staff. So they took their lumps and bruises throughout the year. They played well enough in SEC play. They still weren't over 500 in SEC play, but they went 13-17. They were 9-9 against top 16 seeds this season. So that was your argument for Florida getting in. And you've seen some of the guys grow up in front of you, like Liam Peterson, who's the Saturday starter today, didn't look great, but he's been a huge reason why they even got here in the first place because his last 5 starts have been great. Brandon says a lot of swing and miss with Florida, which is definitely the case. Ghost Ed says, I'm not betting that game other than maybe the over for Tennessee Evansville. Caglianone trying to be Ohtani, says Brandon. Fourth game here on today's slate, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, first pitch. Texas A&M, Oregon. Oregon has the hammer here in this game. They'll bat second. The Ducks are plus 210 on the money line. Aggies are minus 280. This is priced incorrectly, in my opinion. It is kind of very similar. I think only 20 cents different on the money line compared to game one. And it's incorrect. I mean, especially with, Ryan Prager's not on the mound for Texas A&M, who's been their ace all year, and also without Montgomery. Those two players possibly the most important players for Texas A&M, are not appearing in this game, the price just doesn't make sense. So I would stay away from the money line. I do think it's a solid parlay piece, though. The total's set at 13.5 minus 115. A&M minus 3.5 minus 110. Oregon plus 3.5 minus 120. Like I said, I just don't think the market has really caught up to that Montgomery injury. I don't think Oregon is good enough to take advantage of it. Let's run through the start. Let's run through the matchups, I should say. For Texas A&M, starting in this game is Shane Sadeo, sophomore left-handed pitcher who's 5-1 with a 2.61 ERA on the year, 55 strikeouts. He only has 9 walks and 48.1 innings. He's got 243 Sierra. However, at home, I said this in the Super Regional preview, it's a little bit confusing. He's got a 482 home ERA. It's like the only guy that he handicapped for the entire Super Regional that actually had worse splits at home than he does on the road. So I don't know if that was just matchup based, whether he appeared against some weaker teams on the road instead of the stronger teams at home. I've no idea, but yeah, he's the one guy with poor home splits. And Bluebell Park is a pitcher's park most of the time. It's a large park. Going for Oregon is Grayson Grinzel, a sophomore lefty who's 7-2, 382 ERA on the year, 97 strikeouts, 42 walks, and 75.1 innings with a 326 Sierra. However, on the road this season, he's got a 675 ERA. So I am more prone to fade that road split than anything. I think Texas A&M's offense is going to be able to have some success against Grinzel. A&M 973 team OPS, 128 WRC plus. Against Prager, Oregon did look impressive. They put up the 6 runs on them in the first 3 innings or so. So that impressed me for sure. I doubt they're able to do that for another day here against A&M, who once again has an elite bullpen. A&M's bullpen, 350 weekend ERA. And they only used Ashenbeck for 22 pitches yesterday on Saturday's game. So he's going to be available in this. But their entire bullpen outside of Chris Cortez will be able to be good for use. Chris Cortez did an amazing job giving Texas A&M length in this game and actually shut down Oregon's offense completely. He threw 89 pitches in this one after Ryan Prager only went 1.2 innings with 41 pitches. For Oregon, RJ Gordon threw 103 pitches. Ryan Featherston, who's been one of the better back end guys for Oregon, got tagged. He gave up like 3 runs and his like 1 out. He got 1 out through 28 pitches. Yes, he could come back here for another appearance, but the first one wasn't great. So I don't know if you'd bring him back. Logan Mercado, I would not expect him in game 2. He threw 62 pitches. Oregon does have a solid pen with a 391 weekend ERA. They do have 2 or 3 guys that are solid back there that are probably going to appear in this game. But I just think Texas A&M's offense matched up against Oregon's offense will be able to put up more runs against solid pitching in this game. Total set at 13.5. I lean under on that one. A&M on the money line, A&M run line. I just personally wouldn't bet either one of those because I don't think the market's caught up to that Montgomery injury. I don't think you're getting good value on either one of the picks. Personally, I think your best way of playing this is throw A&M into a money line parlay for the day. The last game of the day is Kentucky, Oregon State. The Wildcats are minus 135. Oregon State's plus 105. Totals set at 13.5, minus 115 both ways. The Cats are minus 1.5 plus 100. Oregon State plus 1.5 minus 130. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to listen to. I love Nick Mingione, the head coach of Kentucky, but I find his press conferences entertaining. But today's was a half hour, and I was just not going to listen to that prior to this show. Oregon State, they're going to start Jacob Kmatz, a junior right-handed pitcher who's 7-2, 329 ERA, 88 strikeouts, 20 walks, and 82 innings with a 279 Sierra. All of that's solid. However, on the road this season, it's a 5.26 ERA And Oregon State on the road this year has just not looked nearly as good as they do at home. They're 9-11 on the road. They only have 5 losses, I believe, at home. It's just a crazy difference for this team. And even some of their wins, they're not pretty when they're on the road. I do think Mason Moore is going to get the start for Kentucky. He started game 3 in the regional, but game 3 was on Sunday. So here on Sunday, I think because he's on full rest and he's the better option, I would go with Mason Moore. But Dominic Nyman or Neiman, I think it's Neiman. He threw on Friday last weekend, but he's just not the better option currently. Mason Moore in the NCAA tournament's on an incredible run. He's thrown 20.1 innings of scoreless ball in his NCAA tournament career. It's just really, really legit stuff that you're seeing from Mason Moore in the postseason. So I think he gets the ball. He's a junior right-handed pitcher who's 9-3 on the season, but he's got a 5.02 ERA on the season, 76 strikeouts, 45 walks, and 84.1 innings, 4.28 SIERA. And at home, it's a full 1.5 less ERA than it is on the entire season. He's got a 3.57 home ERA. And like I said, he hasn't given up a run in postseason play. Let's jump into the pen first before I give like the analysis behind the pick and the reason why I'm taking Kentucky in this game. Poozer, the starting pitcher for Kentucky, Trey Poozer, threw 108 pitches on Saturday, and Jackson Novi threw 24 in relief. Kentucky still has their top or 3 of their top 4 arms out of the pen outside of Novi ready to go. They have Hogan, O'Brien, Hummel, all 3 of those guys, sub-5 ERAs. For Oregon State, Aiden May threw 85 pitches. Joey Munt, one of the better relievers, appeared here for 29. Then they punted because, this game got really out of hand fast. They were just making a ton of mistakes. It wasn't even because these guys wasn't even because May or Munt got hit hard. They struggled with walks. They made mistakes in the field. So then they punted. They go with A.J. Hutchinson for 15, Noah Ferguson for 14, and Leif Palmer for 11. That's how they finish out the game. This bullpen is elite for Oregon State. 3.86 weekend bullpen ERA. They have Bridger Holmes ready to go with a 1.97 ERA, 32 innings on the year. They have Keljo and Lattery ready to go. Nelson Keljo and A.J. Lattery. Both of those guys are probably going to appear in this game if needed. And I think they'll need it early. I think Kentucky's able to get to Komatz because, once again, on the road, he's pitched a little bit worse this season than at home. But then the bullpen of Oregon State's going to be able to come in, and if they play with their heads on straight on defense, they should be able to keep Kentucky in a low-scoring battle. However, I think Mason Moore deals once again. And with Kentucky having very solid pen options, I still think Kentucky's got the upper hand in this game. And like we said prior to this series, I think game 3 is going to be a total toss-up between Dominic Nyman and Eric Segura. But we bet Oregon. So we took Kentucky to win the Super Regional at -140. We bet Oregon at +105 to win game 1. That obviously didn't work. The plan was always to bet Kentucky in game 2. And if they win game 2, you were going to make money if they won the series. Because I only thought Oregon State had the one shot to win game 1. They didn't win game 1. I think Kentucky wins game 2. Even with Oregon State having all the options in the bullpen that they currently do, Kentucky's still got plenty of options because this turned into a blowout. So the handicap remains the same. Let's take Kentucky. And if we get Kentucky to win this game, they of course win the series. So then you would go 2-1. Originally, we were hoping to go 3-0 with Kentucky winning in game 3 of this series. And that was going to be it was a semi-hedge play with a series future on this. And hopefully we're going to go 3-0. It just wasn't the case. I still think we've got a great shot at going 2-0. I'm going to play Kentucky here at -140 to win this game. And with that, this place is also going to be jacked up because they're about to clinch their first ever Omaha appearance. Like this place, it was already pretty lit on Saturday night against Oregon State in that huge inning. But this place is going to be a madhouse because they're going to want to go to Omaha for the first time ever. I mean, it's Big Blue Nation. Yes, the game's at 9 p.m. Eastern. This will be wrapping up around midnight Eastern, but I don't think they're going to care. I think it's going to be absolutely crazy. Kentucky actually minus 135. It's come down a little bit. Early money, I guess, likes the Beavs, but I just pointed you a lot of the way, like, just what the philosophy was around that pick. So I do like the under 13.5 in that game quite a bit too. Actually, I like that a lot. Let's lock up that under 13.5 too. Kentucky and Oregon State, just because of all the pitching options that they've got left here. I don't think 14 runs are getting scored in this game. We didn't even see 14 runs scored in the first game, and it was a total punt. So I like the under there. And especially at 9 p.m., it's going to be a little bit cooler. It's a big park. Ball's not going to fly as well as it will, as it has the entire weekend during the day. So yeah, I love, that's actually my favorite pick here today. The under 13.5 in Kentucky and Oregon State, with both teams having all of the bullpen options still fresh in that one. And I would still probably pick minus 1.5 on our picks page for that game as well. Let's catch up on the YouTube chat before I review everything and then give out the podcast parlay for today. Noah Thornton says it's more, I'm pretty sure. Saw a tweet earlier from Beat Writer. Well, I mean, that comes in handy for sure. I missed that one. My mentions were absolutely crazy today. I had like 5 tweets that had over 100 or over 100. I had one that had 3,500. It was kind of crazy on my end, social media wise, something that I'm not really used to covering college baseball year round. But it's great to see. Sam Bostic, he's got a Kentucky logo in his avatar. He says Kentucky pimp slapped Oregon. That's a good way of putting it. Brandon says a little cheering shouldn't matter that much. Not big of splits. It's not a little cheering. It's quite a bit. And I'm not saying just because of the cheering. Oregon State has consistently played bad on the road. Outside of the one series that they had against Arizona when they were competing for the Pac-12, they struggled against USC on the road. They struggled against Cal. They got swept by Cal on the road. They struggled against Stanford on the road. Struggled against Utah on the road. So don't love the Beavs here, especially after what I saw in the first game of this series with them on the road. They just didn't show up to play. Yeah, and Daniel, you're right. They threw in the towel. They didn't throw any of their top options late in that game. Sam Bostic says cats are in everything, including the kitchen sink offense. I love it. They are. I mean, they do a lot of things well. I've always said they're not really elite at anything. They just do everything pretty well. They're a fundamentally sound team, and you looked at it, like there was a sequence in this game, actually. That's a great thing that actually just jogged my memory. They laid down a bunt in this one. It was a safety squeeze. They score on the safety squeeze. The next pitch, I think it was, they stole third base. The catcher overthrows third base. Then the pitcher makes a mistake on the very next pitch, and it's a bomb. That's Kentucky baseball. They make you make mistakes because they're just a very hectic offense. Hasty says, I'm with Noah. Kentucky ends it today. Evansville is no longer a Kentucky joke. Ghost Dad says, I was there. That place was rocking. Set the attendance record too at just under 8K. That is outstanding. 8K. I mean, North Carolina just set an attendance record today, and they're a premier baseball program in college baseball, and it was like 4,800 for North Carolina. And that place was rocking for what it's worth. I'm not knocking them at all. Daniel says not tomorrow is an over game. Poos are gone. No, it's going under. It's going under. Brandon says under scares me. Kentucky's pitching can get shaky later in games. It's going under. I feel good about it. And I like the aspect of it being the night game. Like everybody's going to want to play an over in this one. And I think like when you were seeing a lot of these games, somebody said it earlier in this chat, like a lot of the early games have been crushing the over, but the later ones have gone under. Like look at North Carolina, West Virginia today. I liked that over yesterday. Not enough to bet it, but it went 2-1. That was the final there. Any thoughts on possible under in Oregon, Texas A&M? A&M offense is better at home, but after the one big inning for Oregon, they got nothing and just feel if it goes over, has to be 12 from A&M. So, yeah, I don't expect a 6-run output from Oregon once again. I do think Texas A&M's capable of putting up 10 in whatever game they play. It's just about how much help is Oregon going to provide. And I think I'm in Hanan on this one. I think I said over 13.5 originally, but the under 13.5 might be more logical. That one's a coin flip. That number is pretty solid. It's just about how much help is Oregon going to give it. What happened to Tennessee? Was it Evansville? Yes, it was Evansville. Riva Leal said, "Would the UE run line be a good play?" No, I wouldn't take it. They don't have the pitching to hold down Tennessee. I don't think they'll be able to stop Tennessee from scoring tomorrow. Evansville could score with Tennessee. I'm not saying that's I'm not saying that's not a possibility. I just know Tennessee should be able to score tomorrow. The other sequence from Noah Thornton, the other sequence is Oregon State trying to bunt with 1 out and bases loaded in a 1-0 game. Hit there and momentum is different. Yeah, but you look at it, and Kentucky did the same thing in the next inning, and it worked. So it's hindsight 2020. Yeah, and it turned into a strikeout on that one. Nathan Cerna says cash with North Carolina money line today. Daniel said you can't go play Kentucky's game. I mean, it takes the commitment to have that. I mean, mentality of playing that game. You have to be able to adapt to the role. Like a lot of players aren't capable of doing it, and I do think Mingione's recruited very well and players that will buy into the system. So Vols are going to pound the poor Purple Aces tomorrow, says Nathan Cerna. I think they'll pound the pitching staff. I think they may give up their fair share of runs tomorrow too. Kentucky baseball is number 2 for a reason, says Sam Bostic, and I tend to agree with you. Let's get to the podcast parlay and we'll get out of here. I mean, is it really a secret? It's going to be Tennessee and Texas A&M. It comes out to minus 169. If you wanted to throw another team into this podcast parlay, I would put Kentucky in it. It would just be the 3 late games. Take the 3 favorites there. Don't get too cute. Those 3 teams would come out to plus 178. Personally, I'm going to just do the Tennessee, Texas A&M because I don't have anything on that game. I've lost about 3 parlays in this NCAA tournament because I played a team on the money line and I also put them into a parlay. So I'm not going to do that with Kentucky tomorrow. I'm just going with Tennessee, Texas A&M. I'll have the little bit of juice with it at minus 169, and I'll call it a day. But yeah, that's the show. So I have Clemson money line. I have Kentucky money line, Kentucky, Oregon State under 13.5, and Tennessee, Texas A&M money line parlay. Tomorrow, if the line moves from Tennessee minus 5.5, if it shortens up to 4.5, 3.5, at 3.5, I love it. At 4.5, I'd probably still bet it. So just keep an eye out on the market tomorrow. If the public loves Evansville and they take them on the running line, I just think it's the incorrect play as the Purple Aces just don't have anything left on the mound in this one. So thank you all for tuning in. We had over 175 of you guys tune in throughout all platforms that we were on today. It's 2:48 a.m. I'm going to quickly end the show, write up tomorrow's picks article, and get to bed. Tomorrow, unfortunately, for the early games, I'll be at a graduation party. But I plan to be in command center for the 3-game late slate. So thank you all for tuning in today. I will see you tomorrow. Hopefully we get 1 or 2 of these games to go game 3 for Friday, even though I only predicted I predicted 2 of them. So Georgia, NC State, Clemson, Florida. So I hope that happens. I hope we get some more content for tomorrow, but expect a recap pod at the least, a couple of picks at the most. I'll see you again tomorrow night. Adios, amigos.